guys, so I'm back, and if as you can probably tell from the title, this week I am doing a little art supply video. Before I get started, a couple of things. I am an adult, and I did have a job. I don't have one currently, but I did for a few years, and I was also in art school, so a lot of these supplies are left over from when I was taking art classes at Mass Art, and then the others I've just sort of, you know, picked up here and there, and a bunch of them are Christmas and birthday presents because that's what I always ask for, is art supplies. Also, my supplies, most of them are not professional quality, they're student quality because, you know, I don't have a lot of money, and I'm also still practicing. So, you know, if you're just getting started out or you don't have a lot of money, some of these supplies might be more in your price range. The more expensive ones were usually gifts, but yeah, I figured it'd be good to do a little cheaper art supply kind of video of like more student quality, some more affordable things that you can use versus like, you know, the big stuff, I guess. So yeah, so I am gonna get started. Okay, so to start, I figured it'd be easier just to go through like my process for creating my watercolor paintings and then just talk about what I use in each step. So this is my sketchbook. It's just regular Artist Loft hardcover sketchbook from Michaels. It's pretty cheap. Paper quality's not amazing, but for sketching and like testing things, I don't really need like anything amazing. And I do find myself preferring the hardcover versus like wire-bound stuff. So this might look familiar. This is my first lion sketch. I'll do like a sketchbook tour later, but pretty much, you know, this is where I do all of my planning and figuring out what I'm going to do next kind of stuff. So like, I'll plan out, you know, I'll do thumbnail sketches, and I'll also do color tests and stuff while I'm painting for what my next art video is going to be. So this is Lion. This was my initial sketch, and I did this when I was on vacation and couldn't record. And then this was me actually sitting down and doing the final work. So I'll figure out, you know, basic details in my sketchbook, and then I'll move on to the next thing, which is actually computer paper. I just use computer paper to do my final sketch. So this was a rough sketch, and then I did another rough sketch of where the flowers would be, and then I did final line art, and I did all of this using my light box, which was actually a Christmas present. It was a surprise. I didn't ask for a light box for Christmas, but Dad decided to get me one anyway, which was pretty nice. It's pretty cheap. It's a Huion L4S LED USB light box. It doesn't have a wall plug. It just plugs into my computer, which is nice. I don't use it that much. You know, it stays out of the way and everything. But it's pretty good, and it's got dimmer settings. So based on, you know, how long you hold it here, it'll light up. It's not plugged in right now, but yeah, it's A4 sized roughly, and yeah, so this has been very useful. So once I'm done with my sketches and I'm ready to move on to final, I use my light box and I transfer my final line art onto whatever I'm gonna be painting on. So most of what I use is watercolor paper. This is the one that I use the most. It's the Canson XL cold press watercolor paper. It's 9x12. It's 300 GSM, 140 pounds. It's got a sort of a roughish texture to it. Not really bad. It's only got a little bit, but I like it. And it's also very cheap, which is why I got it. 9x12 cost me like less than $15, which is pretty affordable. It's not the best paper in the world, but for just starting out, it's a pretty good quality and it's pretty good weight. And I prefer this. What I used in the beginning originally is I bought this, which is the Strathmore 400 series watercolor paper. Again, 140 pounds, 9x12, and it's not that bad, but my only complaint, it's got this ring binding and it's not perforated. So when I ripped it out, I had this like frayed edge that I had to cut off, which really annoyed me. But I've been using this for like scrap watercolor paper and stuff since, because the Canson stuff is glued, so you can just tear it right off. But yeah, so I use that. And then for some smaller works or for some trying new things or whatever, what I used to use is I have these Canson mixed media sketchbooks. So I actually used to use these as my primary sketchbooks when I was in school, and I stopped doing that, which because it winds up being more expensive than just my other sketchbook. But this one's 9 by 12, this one's 7 by 10. They're both 98 pounds or 160 grams. So, you know, this one, like I said, was my old sketchbook. So I've got sketches in here, and so was this one. So I've got sketches in here, but I've stopped doing that, and now I just tear them out for smaller paintings. So I like these. Because it's a lighter weight, it can't use as much water as like my watercolor paper, which I found out when I did my Atheris piece, but it's still not a bad paper to play around with. You just gotta be careful. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about what I actually draw with. So my actual pencils are these. They are the Pentel Graph Gear 1000 mechanical pencil set. I've always preferred mechanical pencils over regular ones because you don't have to sharpen, and I got these specifically because I liked the idea of drawing in different lead weights. Like this one is 0.7, this one's 0.3, 0.5, 0.9, 0.5. I use the 0.5 the most. And you can also, like, there's this little indicator on the side for like what darkness of lead it is. So in my 0.5 that I use the most, it actually has 4B lead because I prefer drawing and sketching with a darker lead. Not for final work, but just for sketches and stuff, because I can fill in value very quickly. And it just, you know, works like that. And you keep going until you get the lead. And then it just kind of goes like that. These are not the cheapest mechanical pencils in the world. These were another gift that I saved up that I asked for. But I really like them, and they've got a good weight. And I also threw on these little pencil grip thingies because I have carpal tunnel and I needed a wider grip, so it helps. But yeah, so I mostly use these, and they have erasers, but you know, they don't last very long and they kind of will get worn out. So what I've been using to erase primarily is this, which is just a Staedtler Mars Plastic eraser stick. So I had 3 of these lying around, but 2 of them got stolen by my friends a couple years back. I've actually had this for a really long time, but it does the trick. And then what I actually started using recently is just this random little plastic eraser that I stole from my cheap art supply kit because I really liked it, and I needed a bigger one, so I just took that. And then what I'll also use when I'm doing like my final line art, or I'm having trouble figuring out a sketch and I'm working on posing and details and stuff, is my Prismacolor Kohl Erase pencils. I got the full set of 24. It was only $13 or so. They're pretty cheap. They're pretty awesome. Some colors obviously I use more than others, like the rose one right here. I use this one a lot. But you know, it comes in a bunch of colors. It's erasable and it's super handy. So I'll actually use these and then this together. Like when I was trying to figure out my cotton candy garnet piece for John, this was a scrapped thumbnail because he decided he just wanted garnet in the picture instead. So I might actually revisit this. But you know, I like to use these just to figure out, like, you know, the pose and everything, and then I'll go over with my other mechanical pencil to work in details. It's a nice way to separate out the sketch. And then I also use these for final line art on my watercolor paper. They don't smear the way graphite does, so it's really nice for painting over with watercolor. And then for sharpening, I've got Staedtler regular little pencil sharpener. It's kind of full right now. It's got 2 little places to sharpen with, you know, graphite pencil or graphite in color. So this one gives it a fine point, this one gives it a rounder point. It's pretty nice. It opens up. I'm not going to open it now because it's actually full of pencil shavings, but it's pretty good. And then I was cleaning out a box and I found this thing, which is my battery powered pencil sharpener. I have no idea what brand it is. I honestly can't even remember buying it. So, don't know where I got it, don't know how much it was. I've had this thing forever. Like, the battery was dead when I dug it out of the box. I had to replace it, but it's pretty nice, and I like using it with my colored pencils because it won't actually, like, destroy the lead. So, and then when I'm doing inked line art, which I don't do often, I mostly do that, like, at the end of a painting, but sometimes I'll do it beforehand. I have 2 things that I use. These are my Coolpix SP multi-liners. These are not very cheap. This was a birthday present from my mom last year. I asked for the full set, so. But I like these because they have replaceable nibs, and you can fill up the end, replaceable ink cartridges, so they're more cost-effective in the long run. So. And there's a full range of sizes. There's even a brush nib, but it's not that great. But I like it because the ink is very black. It's waterproof. It's also Coolpix proof, so if you use anything that's alcohol based, it won't smear. So I really like using this with my watercolors, and also like the fine points. But yeah, you can, yeah. So ink cartridge is fully replaceable, and I'm not gonna pull the nib out, but yeah, it's pretty neat. So I use these. But what I use the most when I'm inking is my Pentel Pocket Brush Pen. I have had this thing for years. I got this even before Mass Art, which was 2 years ago, so like I've had this thing forever. And it took me a while to get used to using it, and I've been using it more and more lately than I used to, but it's really, really fun to use. So it's got a brush nib, and this is an actual brush nib. There are nylon bristles. So, you know, you can get feathering and stuff based on how tightly, like how quickly you move. The ink is very black. It is waterproof, but not like right away. It's better to let your ink drawing dry for like overnight before you decide to paint over it. But once it does, it is waterproof, and it's pretty sweet. And it comes with cartridges. So these are my cartridges that I have right now. This is the empty one. I'm actually saving my empty cartridges because I'm thinking I might try to refill them myself. But yeah, the cartridges actually do last quite a while. So this thing is like one of my favorite tools ever. I love this thing so much. And just a little shout out, if you really like brush pens and stuff, I highly recommend KayBeast's channel, because she does a lot of stuff with brush nibs and brush pens and things, and it's because of her that I started using this more often. So yeah, she does a lot of work with this, and it's really awesome. So. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about like actual painting supplies, like when I'm ready to start, you know, actually painting. So I just use masking tape along the side of my paper. It's just regular plain old masking tape, Scotch brand. This stuff isn't great. It's been tearing my paper, and sometimes it doesn't mask the best. I've had this thing for a very long time, as you can tell by the dirty sides. I've had this since school, so I'm actually looking to upgrade and find some nicer paper, nicer tape. So if anybody has recommendations for nicer masking tape, please let me know. I will also mask the paper with this, which is the Daler & Rowney Art Masking Fluid for watercolor. And it works well enough, but it does stain the paper slightly yellow. It's not that noticeable if I paint over it, which I tend to do. This was a cheap brand that I could buy when I was still in school, and so I've been meaning to upgrade. I've heard the Winsor & Newton masking fluid is better, so I might upgrade that. But for now, this is what I'm using. And now for the fun stuff. My paints. This is not all of it. Give me a second. There we go. These are my watercolor paints. Most of them. There's a gouache in here too. This one. So I use Winsor & Newton Cotman watercolors primarily. I prefer 2 paints, 2 pans. Pans are good for like travel and stuff, but I do prefer 2 paints just because I can use it straight out of the tube if I want really pigmented color. It's not recommended because they're meant to be diluted, and these are pretty pigmented on their own anyway. So these are all my colors. I have a couple of tubes of the professional color, and these were from when I was at Mass Art, and I had required colors for my Media Techniques class, and they were out of them in the Cotman, so I had to buy them in professional, which is kind of expensive, but you know, I've got them. So these are all my paints, and I also have a tube of white gouache that is the Daler & Rowney brand. This was actually given to me by my girlfriend Alicia out of an old art kit that she had. She took some art classes, and she had some leftover art supplies that she let me go through and take things that I want. So I use all of these, and I put them in here. So this is my palette. It's just a folding palette. I don't recall what brand it was. I bought it off of MaryArtist.com. And all of my supplies, by the way, I have links in the description to either Amazon or like Blix or wherever I could find them. Not all of them, all of their listings are the cheapest place. I went to Amazon mostly because it was easy, I guess, and also because, you know, it probably has more shipping options or whatever. But yeah, everything's listed down below in the description. So this is my watercolor palette. And yep, so I got this on maryartist.com. It's got 28 wells and then 5 mixing places, and then sometimes I use this one too. And a little thumb thing, it can hold your brushes. It's pretty nice. So I arranged all 28 of my colors and everything, and it's dirty because I was actually working on these. The other day I made a palette and a swatch thing, which I will actually discuss in next week's video. I have a whole video based off of the palette and the swatches that I made and what colors I use and why I picked them and how I arranged them. So that video goes up next week. So look out for that. So when I actually paint, I use 2 cups for water. These have lids on them just because they came like that. This is actually a gelato container that I cleaned up and reused, and this was just kind of lying around the house. I think this might have held applesauce or something, but I used 2 of them. I use this one to clean my brush, and then this one to wet the watercolor. And it's really good to do that because you don't want your dirty water mixing the watercolor because it'll mess up the color and stuff. So, and then if you've watched any of my watercolor paintings before now, you know I like to use salt techniques. It's my favorite thing to do, and it's one of the few texturing techniques that I've actually been able to figure out. I haven't done a whole lot with other things yet. I want to, but I have this little container like from Michael's that a friend gave me, and it's just filled with just, you know, regular old table salt. So, actually no, this might be kosher salt. Looks kind of greenier. I think this is kosher salt. I don't know. It's salt. So I just have this, and then I also have this packet of sea salt, which is meant to be used for like a grinder and stuff, but I like the really, really like big crystals, which I used in my garnet piece, because I mean, look how big that is. So, so I can get some really cool techniques with my watercolor by using those. And these are my watercolor brushes. I don't have many that I use a lot of. I pretty much stick to these 8. And these are a mix of the Winsor Newton Cotman brand and the Robert Simmons White Sable brushes. And these were, again, part of my Mass Art school supplies. I took 2 classes that had watercolor supplies listed as required art supplies. So, and I bought these at Blick. A little down the road from my art school was a physical store for Dick Blick, and it's just called Blick's there, in Boston. And I just picked up random brushes over the course of my time at school there. Most of these are round brushes. I do prefer using round ones of various sizes. And then I also have a liner, a scripting brush for like fine lining and stuff, and then a flat brush. And I do intend to like get more of different shapes and things, but with my current like size paintings, these work just fine. And the ones that I use the most are my round number 8, my round number 3, and my round number 6. And then I'll use like the round number 12 for like washes and stuff. So, but these are enough for everything that I need to do. And they're pretty good. They're slightly stained. Most blue pigmented paint tends to stain bristles, but it's not noticeable, and like when you're painting, so that's what I use. And then for cleaning my brushes when I'm done painting, I also picked this up at Blix when I was at Mass Art. It's just brush cleaner and preserver. This is the Masters. I know you can also get this at Michael's, and I'm going to recommend this because this stuff is amazing for like all kinds of paint. I've cleaned oil paint off of brushes with this. I've cleaned acrylic and watercolor, and it works so well. And they also make bar soap for like your hands and stuff. So it just opens up like that, and what you do is you wet the brush and then you swirl it around in the soap until you get a nice lather, and you rinse it off, and you just do that several times until the water rinses clean. And you can even like leave the soap on it for a little bit to soak, like I did with my oil brushes. And this stuff is really amazing. It conditions the bristles of the brush. It will also help fight off staining. So some of my brushes could be more stained than they were because I use this stuff. So yeah, I highly recommend this stuff, and keeping your brushes clean is like really important. I didn't used to do that. I actually got a reputation in my art class in high school for kit destroying brushes because I forgot to clean them. So I don't do that anymore. So brush cleaner. Okay, and after my painting has been completed, or for the actual watercolor part, I like to add embellishments and stuff with a few other things. So this little bag here holds my Prismacolor Premier Color pencils. I want to get a better storage system, but this is kind of what I have. My room's very small. This is what I use. So I have them separated by color family in these little plastic bags just to make my life easier, because I have about 120 pencils in here. So I separated them out by color family to make my life easier. And I bought a 120 set like 10 years ago. They don't even make a 120 set anymore, because at the time that I bought it, they only made 120 colors, and now they're like up to 150. So I need to get more. But yeah, so these are soft pencils, and I just use them to add a little bit more shading or detail in places I couldn't get with watercolor, and also to enhance the liner a little bit. But it's a very soft lead, so it's very blendable, and I use these for final details. Okay, so here's some of my favorite stuff that I use for final touches on a painting when I'm right near the end. This is the white gel pen that I use. It is the Uniball Signo white gel pen. I bought an imported pack, so it's got a bunch of Japanese on the label, because at the time I was looking for it I couldn't find anything else, but so that's why that's there. But you know, simple gel pen, it's got a very thick end there, but I really like this because the ink is very opaque. I used to use the Sakura Jelly Roll white gel pen, and I still have it, but the ink in that isn't nearly as opaque. This stuff is amazing. So I use this for highlighting. I use it for dots and like the highlights on the eyes and stuff. So this gel pen is really, really nice. And I got in a pack of 3 too, so it was pretty cool. And then I don't use these for every painting, but I have some metallic paints and inks here. Well, one ink that I use in a couple of my pieces for like final little touches and fun things. So the first thing that I have is the Winsor & Newton Gold drawing ink, and this stuff is amazing. I actually, another little Jelly Bee reference, I saw her use this in a drawing and was like, I need this stuff like right now. So it does settle down at the bottom, so you gotta shake it up before you use it. But this stuff is so good. I use this in my Godzilla painting, so if you go back and look at that, you can see how great it is. It does kind of get a little stuck there, but if you can kind of see like how awesome that ink is, like this stuff is amazing. I love it so much. So I use that sometimes. And then I had to get the Finetec Pearls and Finetec Metallics watercolors, because there was like a good month there where like every art YouTuber was just raving about this stuff, and I had to get it. So I have the gold and silver set. So it's got 6 palettes of various shades of gold and then a silver. And this stuff is just really amazing. You know, it can go on pretty opaquely, or you can water it down, and I can't help it. I like shiny things, so I like putting shiny things in my art, and so I couldn't resist. I had to get these. So that's the gold one, and then this is the pearl one. These pans are a lot smaller, but there's a lot of colors in here, so if I can just get it out of the box, there we go. So there's silver, fine gold, pink, there's a green, a blue silver. So this set is just really, really nice. And when the light hits it, sometimes it looks a little weird, so on paper it might look green, but then the light hits it, it looks pink. It's kind of weird, but yeah, so I've had a lot of fun with this stuff, and I like doing shiny effects on my paintings, so I had to get it. I couldn't resist. I'm a sucker for shiny stuff. Shiny stuff and glitter, I can't help myself. So yeah, I think that does it for this art supply video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and please check out the description where I have links to where you can find all of these in a few different places. And let me know what you think, and if you have any recommendations for supplies I may not have mentioned, or if you have questions or anything, please let me know. And yeah, and please check back next Saturday where I will have a video that's a bit more in depth about my art, about my watercolor palette and the colors that I used and how to make a swatch. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Tubes of watercolor paint: lemon yellow, crimson red lake, Prussian blue, sap green, black, and white. So these four are commonly used in most watercolor sets. They're very basic colors. Crimson red lake. Alright, well, I'm tired, and he's been out of his cage for a while, and I'm sure he'd like to go back in. That's the camera! Yeah, you know what that is, weirdo. Alright, I'm gonna put him up, and then I'm gonna rest, because, oh my god,